Welcome, friend. You've just settled into the Vice Lounge. Saddle up to the blackjack table, grab yourself a snifter from the server, and light up your stogie. I'm your host, Jason Gillikin, and this is episode number 445 for Saturday, August 22, 2020. In this exciting, action-packed extravaganza, we will have some administrative updates. I will enjoy an aged Liga Privada No. 9 cigar. I'll sip on a Founder's Porter, and then I'll tell you about a trip Tony and I made to a casino the day it opened after lockdown. And you're at the Vice Lounge, where casino gaming, premium cigars, and fine adult beverages genuinely equal bliss. If you'd like to be a part of the program, give me a call at 616-773-2888, tweet to ViceLoungeOL, or send a note to info@viceloungeonline.com. So welcome back, folks. It has been a while since I've seen you. That while, according to my little handy clipboard here, was April. So I apologize for that. So let me tell you what's going on. Quite a few things, actually. First, those of you who are accustomed to watching the show on the podcasting client of your choice will be surprised and delighted to learn that now you've got your normal audio sources, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever you use. But I'm now recording these on video, and I am pushing them to a new Vice Lounge YouTube channel. So that's cool. If you haven't yet had the opportunity, take a look. You'll get to see me in all of my glorious beauty. But I'm also going to do some segments that are remote, which makes it easier. And if you want to be a part of the program, we can Skype you in. We'll record the Skype session. We will drop it in. The audio will come out just like it normally does, but for those who want to see it on video, now you've got a choice. Just go to viceloungeonline.com to see the link to that YouTube channel. So those of you who are watching are going to see that I'm kind of moving my eyes all around the place here because I've got a clipboard of notes and a 3-monitor solution here with a webcam right over there and a cat right there. So because I'm not working with a producer, I'm doing my own producing and expert hosting. You will see me appear a bit scattershot for now, so I apologize for that. So let me tell you what's been going on. This is now the third show that we have released in 2020, and yes, it is the end of August, so I apologize for that. Let me tell you why. In the April show, I gave you some updates just around the health of what was going on with me. Likely had the COVID-19 disease in March, which really kind of set me back. So what's happened since then? Well, let me tell you, it's been a really wild excursion for me. In this time of lockdowns and interesting things going on in the world, economically, some people have been just fine and some people have been not fine. I am in that middle category of folks who have been, because I'm a contractor and a self-employed contractor, my ability to get work has been all over the board. It's been fascinating because at one point I had accumulated 3 or 4 new clients. Everything was great. It was going to be like an oasis of milk and honey in the land. And then what happens? All of them in the same week shut down for COVID, and 2 of them went out of business. That's been a pretty typical story, but as I've been going through this, I said to myself, it's really tricky to do contracting work for business to business like I'd been doing, because in some ways it's glorified gig work, right? It's 1099 stuff. It's legit work, but it's episodic and transient and weird in adverse economic circumstances. So I have had my head down really pretty much since May. I got a note at the beginning of May from my primary client telling me that May and June, we were all reduced to 12 hours instead of 40, which was a shock. We were all back in July, and then in August they were like, guess what? We're all done with all of our contractors. And so I have been burning the midnight oil. I've been doing consistently 50-hour weeks now for pretty much most of the summer, building out a new business enterprise that aligns with one of my professional backgrounds. Some of you know I have 20 years in both the healthcare industry and in the publishing industry. I've always been a two-career kind of guy. And the healthcare stuff as a contractor has been pretty much locked down. People have been so focused on COVID response, and the revenue has declined with a lot of elective procedures being canceled. There's nothing there. So on the publishing side, I thought, you know what can I do here? What can I do to make this work? So I paused, considered, and I'm like, you know what? Years ago, I put in the infrastructure for a company called Diction Dude. And so I have been building that out, and that includes me having written a book. So as of last week, I have a book out. It's the first one that is solely under my name. It is called The Diction Dude Essential Guide to Getting Started as a Professional Writer. You can buy it at dictiondude.com. So I am not going to spend this podcast upselling my professional writing and editing services. But if you know people who are interested in writing, need an editor, need advice about publishing, go to dictiondude.com. Any support you can give me, social media amplification, buy my book, whatever a case may be, I would appreciate it, because I have taken the leap of faith, and now I am kind of dangling without a net. And although I'm super excited, I do need your help. So that has been my story. And frankly, I was astonished at how poorly I estimate time. There were a handful of things I thought, I'll be done with this in a day or 2 days, and that turned into like 70 hours. So that was a life lesson too in what I do and do not know. But thanks for your patience. Now that, I'm sure, leaves all of you wondering, what's next for Vice Lounge? Well, let me tell you. I have now completed all of this heavy lifting on Diction Dude. There's no more infrastructure to build. I have to do maintenance now, so I've got to be engaged in social stuff. Some of you have noticed that I am now back on Facebook and Twitter and all of those wonderful things. That is now permanent, because I am no longer working 60 hours a week on writing a book and doing infrastructure. And I thought, well, gosh, what do we do with VLO? We've got a great community, and frankly, I miss you people. I really do. It's with the 360 Vegas vacations not being held on account of this damned virus. I thought, you know what? I miss you. We've had a good run together, and I don't want the run to end. So here's what we're going to see with Vice Lounge. I originally was going to do this every other week in 2020. That obviously derailed, but going forward, you know what? We're going to do it every week again. We are back on a weekly schedule. We are also, in addition to being back on a weekly schedule, back on a video schedule. Tony and I had dabbled with video every now and then, and I actually years ago created a YouTube channel for VLO that has nothing in it. Going forward, all of these podcasts will be videoed and uploaded to the YouTube channel. My inspiration actually was Joe Rogan. I have not had the luxury of listening to podcasts because it's just how my brain works. I can't just sit and listen to something, but I can have a video open while I work and not be distracted by it. So, and it's funny because I can't have Spotify open and listen to on my speakers, but the video doesn't bother me. There's probably something interesting psychologically going on there, but I've watched a lot of Rogan and Rubin and Sam Harris and Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying, and I thought, I can do that too. So we are doing that now. Couple other administrative things before we get into the cigar and cocktail segment. Some of you have still been donating to Patreon, and I feel guilty that I've been taking your money and giving you nothing in return. So Patreon, effective immediately, has got a couple new things. The first is that I'm going to launch merchandise on Patreon. Now, it's nothing fancy because we don't control it. I pay a little bit more in a percentage fee and you don't get it right away. I think there's like a 3-month lag if you opt in for it. But with merch, you can get, coffee cups, mugs, t-shirts with a VLO logo on it. I don't do anything with that. It's all transparent to me. Patreon does all the shipping and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in merch, take a look at that. Live stream. Oh, and by the way, in order to do the merchandise, I have to up some of the tiers. So I'm adding tiers at higher price points. That's not a cash grab. That is the fact that that's what Patreon is recommending that I do. Live stream. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, once a month I am going to do a YouTube live stream with a live Q&A. So if you want to engage in a different way, we'll block like a 2-hour segment on, a particular day, and I'll put out a poll on Patreon for people who are interested in it. But it's a chance to sit down. I will have cocktails. We will talk. I will answer your questions on the live stream, and it'll be a ton of fun, I think. And I'm also going to do virtual happy hours that are interactive. I have access to some video conferencing tools, so if you're on Patreon, you can do that. Now, the live stream and the virtual happy hours, that's a benefit for Patreon subscribers. I want to say 2 things about that. First, you will not... Tony and I made the deliberate choice that we were not going to heavily monetize Vice Lounge, and I am sticking to that. So there's nothing that we're doing with the normal show that's going to pull... that's going to be pay for play. The things that we've got here with like the live stream and the virtual happy hour are all intended as additional bolt-ons for the supporters. And I know that some people don't like Patreon for political and financial reasons. So because I can do the live stream and the virtual happy hour outside of Patreon, if you're interested in participating, and I've known you for many years, drop me a note. I'll just give you the links. That's fine. Or if you want to send a donation through PayPal to info@viceloungeonline.com, that works too in lieu of signing up for Patreon. I'm kind of an inclusive guy that way. So that is that on the Patreon side, and we'll do those monthly. I'm also going to ask all of you, I'll put it on Twitter, I'll put it on the Facebook feed, whether you'd be interested in a book. I have toyed for years with the idea of a Vice Lounge book that has got a section on gaming, a section on cigars, a section on cocktails and recipes. Not like a reading book, but like a handbook, something that would be useful. If you think you'd like that, I'll put up some polls and ask some questions, but I now have some more flex time, and I can turn that around in a hurry if you think that's something that you would be interested in purchasing. And the last thing is you wonderful people. If you want to be on this show, I want you. I had put out a call last December. I am renewing the call simply for folks who maybe want to get in on it. We can do Skype calls. We'll record them. We'll have some fun with that. I'm sure you don't want me to always monotone it. And in fact, in the next couple of shows, it won't be exclusively me monotoning. Next week, the next 2 weeks, we'll have the second and third parts of my interview with Alaric Reinstein, who works in the spirits industry. And then I think after that, Tony and I had recorded a drop-in segment. I'll probably drop in that Tony segment in week 4. That gives you time to prep, and it can be anything. We can co-host. You can come in for a specific segment. You've got maybe a beer or a cigar you want to review, and we'll talk about it. I would love to have you on, and you can either reach out by email to info@viceloungeonline.com, or you can respond on Twitter or on Facebook. So that's what I've got for the administrative side. Now, how about a cigar and a cocktail? All right, folks, it is now time for our cigar and alcohol segment. We are doing this in the beautiful nature scene of my backyard. I am sitting here surrounded by the beautiful West Michigan air. It's like in the low 80s right now. I am wearing my super stylish Denton, Dallas, and Beyond custom sunglasses. These are a rare exclusive treat, so you get to see how they look, on a supermodel face. Given the fact that I'm recording this on my cell phone because I'm just sitting on the back lawn, you are going to get a weird angle of my head because that's the best that I can do. But on the bright side, you'll be able to look up my nostrils and see how bad my widow's peak really is. So our alcohol is going to be the Founders Porter. Founders is I guess you could, originally was a microbrewery. Now it's a much larger, small distillery, small brewery. They are located about a mile away from me. The main Founders Brew tap room is maybe 1.2 miles due southwest of where I sit. I've got some marketing speak on this porters, and I quote, "Pours silky black with a creamy tan head. The nose is sweet with strong chocolate and caramel malt presence. No absence of hops gives Founders Robust Porter the full flavor you deserve and expect. Cozy like velvet, it's a lover, not a fighter." Ooh. It is 6.5% alcohol by volume at 45 IBUs. This was bottled on 6/20/20. There. I am going to put it in my lovely Las Vegas koozie, and I keep the cap and I set it on top just lightly because this is Michigan in summer and we get bugs, and I do not like bugs going into my bottles of beer. I actually have a little, you remember when you used to have to buy like 100 packs of blank CDs and DVDs to burn things? I had bought a 100 pack of those 15 years ago. I used all of 5, and then the rest, if I put packing tape over the center spindle, like clear plastic tape, and put it up like a handle, it makes a perfect covering for like a glass or something. And so I usually put one of those on top of like my Glencairn when I am doing my my imbibing out of doors. I will also show you, for those of you who are watching this on the YouTube stream, I am here. I am now wearing my lovely Vice Lounge bowling shirt. I'm wearing the light blue one. And let me tell you, folks, last time you all saw me, or many of you saw me, was at Vegas Vacation about a year ago. And at that Vegas Vacation, compared to today, I am down 40 pounds, which yay me. But you know what the great thing about it is that these bowling shirts, which I hated the pictures that I took in Vegas because I looked like I was stuffed into like a sausage vest or something. But now this is like loose and airy and it feels good. I'm like, oh, well, now I kind of wish I was in Vegas, with the group. But we're not because of COVID. For the cigar, something that I have reviewed before on the show and something Tony has also reviewed because we both love it, the Liga Privada No. 9. Now, this is not just any ordinary cigar for me. This is a cigar that came out of a box of 20 I bought in April of 2019. So these have been reposing in my home humidor for 16 months. Those of you who know me, it's rare that a cigar sits in my humidor for more than 16 days. But about a year ago, I went on a buying spree. I bought a box of these. I bought a box from the Cigar Factory New Orleans. I bought a bunch of one-offs from a couple different local tobacconists. But I didn't really smoke much. Part of that was a function of the weird winter that we had. Part of it was a function of the fact that I've got feral cats that are now dwelling on my back porch, which is where I normally smoke. And those ferals have fleas, or at least they did last summer. So I had inadvertently brought a flea into the house, and it got on my indoor cat, which was not fun. I took care of it. It was all good, but it was just a reminder that I have been displaced by felines yet again. So this will be a fun smoke for me. I haven't had one out of this batch since the spring. And I am really curious as to how it ages. So I'm going to use my lovely V-cutter here to V-cut the stick. It cut cleanly, looks good. My excitement for this comes from the fact that A, I've been maintaining my humidor, and B, it's been reposing like this. These did not come in a cigar condom. There was no cellophane wrapper. And I had other cigars that also did not have a cellophane wrapper. So they've been merging and blending, and every couple of months when I would, I would do my checks weekly on the humidity in my little desktop humidor, but every couple of months I would rotate them, move them around, shift them around, bring them out for air, that sort of thing. So I have been doing, I think, a good job with these. So I am going to toast the foot here, because you can never have a cigar without a toasted foot. Of course, we need to be careful, those of you who are experienced cigar smokers know, about not scorching the edge of the cigar. I have not scorched the edge, but if you get like one of those bigger flame ones or the tri-jets, it's really easy to get a scorch up the side. So now I'm going to make sure that I'm well lit. All right, first draw or two. It's quite pleasant. It's muted. It's got a bit of a chocolatey flavor, almost like cocoa. Slightly astringent. It almost tastes a little bit more oaky than I remember the LP9s tasting. I'm getting hints of leather, and it's really leather, oak, and dark cocoa, I think, are the dominant notes here. There's almost a peanutty aftertaste. Yeah, almost a peanut almond aftertaste that goes with it. Quite delightful, not at all harsh. Has not lost any of the robust flavor I expect from a Drew Estate cigar. So this is good, and it's going to pair very nicely with my bottle of porter. So I will check in a few minutes when I'm a little bit further through the cigar. So stay tuned. All right, everyone. Through the magic of editing, it appears that no time at all has elapsed. However, if you're watching the video stream, you can see that I'm down to roughly the halfway point on this Liga Privada. I will tell you that I haven't noticed a lot of change through the thirds, or through the first half anyway. It's been a pretty reliable cigar. You see I've been getting the wrapper and the binder have been burning just a hair faster than the filler in the middle, and it's been like this the entire time. It's not been awful, but it's been pretty consistent. But from a construction standpoint, this has been an absolutely flawless cigar so far. Taste, again, is really solid. I'm still getting a lot of the vanilla. I'm still getting a lot of the, not vanilla, the leather and the nut in particular. And the cocoa is still fairly strong. It pairs really well with this porter, by the way. These make just kind of a natural pairing, and so I'm quite pleased with it. So now that I'm like halfway through it, let me just kind of reflect on what my observation is with an aged cigar. Because it has not been my practice to keep cigars for a long time. I don't age them, I don't keep them, until recently. And having maintained it, which is the kicker, you've got to maintain your cigars. But having maintained it, I think that it has mellowed. I don't know that if you gave me this compared to a sibling stick when I opened the box a year ago, April, that I would have noticed that they were different, but I wouldn't have been able probably to have put my finger on it. But I think that the moral of the story is that things blend together just a little more nicely. There's not any harshness to this. It is an aromatic, it's a flavorful cigar, it's got a nice smoke to it. And sometimes those can be overpowering. This is not at all overpowering. So I guess my advice to you to kind of wrap up this cigar and alcohol segment is, A, don't underestimate the power of like a good microbrew to go with your cigar. But B, even if it's not your practice, if you've got a cigar that you like, even if you don't necessarily want to invest in buying a box at a time, get 3, 4, 5, 6 if you can, and set them aside. And it's going to take some discipline if you don't have like the full $5,000 set up with an automatic distilled water circulator, that sort of thing. But if you pay attention to it and you treat the cigars well, you will find that the benefit to aging is that you get a mellowing and a blending of the cigar's natural flavors. My understanding, from talking to others, is that some cigars you can tell the difference and some you can't. I think with this Liga Privada No. 9, I can tell the difference. It's subtle, and I don't know if I'm just giving myself too much credit. Happens. But just as an experiment for those of you who smoke them when you buy them, try something different. You might actually find you don't need to invest even in a desktop humidor like what I have. The typical thing is you get a Spanish cedar lined humidor. It's sealed. You keep a little humidity gauge in there, and you put distilled water in. Sometimes you wipe down the walls periodically to maintain the 70-70. I've been really good on the humidity. Temperature is weird because I live in a 125-year-old house with drafts and all sorts of unusual things. The house itself, the interior temperature ranges anywhere between 60 and 80. So it's well within your zone. But you can make this happen on the cheap. Just get something like a nice sealable Tupperware container and those little Bovita humidity packs. They sell them at like 72% or something. Put the humidity pack and your cigars in the Tupperware. Keep them in a dry place where they're not going to have a lot of variation. Once a week, go in there and just like air it out a little bit. And when the Bovita pack starts to get hard, replace it. I mean, that's literally all you need to do. The cedar humidors are great if you're humidifying the humidor. But no law requires that. What matters for the stick is that it's 70-70 thereabouts. And you can do that just fine with Tupperware and a Bovita pack. Super simple, super cheap, and it's not that big of a deal. So for me, this was a winner. If you've had any experiences with aged cigars, I would love for you to weigh in on the Facebook group. Send me a note to info@viceloungeonline.com. Tweet at viceloungeol because I'm going to start checking that again. And let me know. And if you would like to be a part of the show, you are certainly welcome to do that too. I would love to have you on, video, audio, whatever it is, and hear your story yourself. So that's all for this segment. And now we move on to gaming. All right, folks, we are going to wrap up today with a brief casino segment. So as many of you know, the country, and I know this may take some of you by surprise, the country has seen a wave of various forms of lockdown as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Michigan was adversely affected by this. Our governess has done all sorts of interesting things, some of which don't necessarily perfectly cohere with the science in order to get control of the situation. One of the things that happened in Michigan was a lockdown of pretty much everything, particularly in April and May. So in June, part of the governor's plan to reopen the state took effect, and that included opening the Firekeepers Tribal Casino in Battle Creek, Michigan. So the first Monday in June, Tony Snyder, a fellow you may be familiar with, Tony and I took a trip to Firekeepers to be there right when the doors opened at 10 a.m. And let me tell you, it was an interesting experience. So first of all, we were surprised a little bit to see just how packed the casino was. And then it occurred to us, well, the parking garage was shut down, so the surface lot was filled. The casino itself was not super busy right when it opened. There was a line to get in, but a short one. And we got in, and it was like everyone had to wear a mask, and they had all sorts of sanitizers and stuff available. So we went in, and we played lots of bubble craps. We did some video poker. We kind of bounced around to some slots. interesting thing, at one point we went into one of the bars at the casino, and only when you were seated at the bar could you take your mask off, because obviously you've got to drink while you're sitting there. It was pretty laid back. They were vigilant, but they weren't hyper aggressive, I think, in beating people up if they weren't like fully on board with the masks. But they were, I don't know that I saw anybody unmasked the entire time. So I guess a different way of phrasing that is that staff were vigilant, but they didn't necessarily need to intervene, at least when the facility opened. Machines were shut down, like every other machine was closed. Seats were taken away in the bars. It was very much a first day open during a pandemic kind of feel to it. But that said, the Firekeepers team did a pretty good job of trying to keep it business as usual. Everybody was, there and working. Everyone was masked up. It was an interesting experience. And what I was more interested in, because the casinos are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to follow the law. They're going to follow what the health department requires. And that's kind of not controversial. What I was more interested in was what everybody else was going to do. And it seemed, at least from our day one excursion, that everybody seemed to follow the rules. There wasn't a lot of drama. They were doing temperature checks at the door. You had to have your mask at the door. And that was not controversial. I didn't see anybody acting like scufflaws. There were some folks, because this is kind of rural central West Michigan. And there is a bit of a libertarian streak in some of the folks. I mean, this is an area that is known for people deliberately flouting mask orders in places. And I didn't see any of that at the casino, which surprised me a little bit. I was also pleased that there was no drama about it. But everything is different in that context. We're accustomed to walking around a casino with a cocktail, enjoying a cigar. You can't smoke, indoors in these environments because you can't wear a mask and smoke a cigar. Unless you're Don, in which case you cut a hole in your mask when you are in Costa Rica or wherever, and that's cool. But for the most part, it was a pretty good, interesting experience. They did pick up a little bit in terms of audience going on, but it was pretty much an uneventful day. It was good to get back in the casino. Lost all my money like normal. So did Tony. So we had a pretty good day. I will get a report from Tony. He and his wife have since gone to different casinos around town I guess now it's the Midwest, because I think they've been to Louisville at least once since then. So I will inquire about how that experience has been. But if you haven't yet gone to a casino since your state has lifted or tried to lift its lockdown restrictions, go, but just plan on having your mask, probably carrying some hand sanitizer just to be safe. And think carefully about what your imbibing approach is going to be. I have now seen people inventing masks where you can stick a straw in. I'm not sure how that works from a preventing respiratory infection perspective, but it's an option, I suppose, and maybe you can try it. But that is my report. So that is all she wrote, folks. We are going to get you out of here in prompt time. And I'm going to do my magical producer work here. Move this. Turn up the music, and I will get you out. Folks, if you'd like to be part of the program, please call 616-322-3673. I gave you the wrong number in my opening spiel, as I realized, because I didn't update that. It is 616-322-3673. The slide is correct if you're watching on the YouTubes. You can visit the show on the web at viceloungeonline.com. Send an email to info@viceloungeonline.com. Watch the show on the YouTube, or follow us on Twitter at ViceLoungeOL. You can also apply for our members-only Facebook group by going to facebook.com/groups/ViceLoungeOnline. And thanks, by the way, to all the folks in that group for keeping the discussion going and managing it in my absence. You are deeply loved and appreciated. Your reviews are what help others discover this well-lubricated excursion into podcasting excellence and help me to plan for future show content. So if you can visit iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever platform you use to listen, leave a 5-star rating and some upbeat comments and suggestions, I sure would appreciate it. If you'd like to help keep the show's spirits flowing and our cigars puffing, head to viceloungeonline.com to learn more about our occasional product and service offerings, or to contribute with either a one-time gift or through a reasonably priced and much appreciated Patreon subscription. Alternatively, send a one-time Vice Tax payment to info@viceloungeonline.com through PayPal. My friends, I truly appreciate you spending a part of your week at the Vice Lounge. I'll be back next week, woohoo, with yet another exciting celebration of casino gaming, premium cigars, and fine adult beverages. Thanks so much for listening.